It's October 9th, 2023. Beautiful city, Sydney of Australia. My name is Jong Han. I am the president of Korean War Legacy Foundation. We have about 1,600 interviews of Korean War veterans from not just from Australia, but all other 21 countries. And we are doing this to preserve your memory, first of all, because it's been already more than 70 years ago. It's very important for history to remember what's happened to Korea and what happened, how you fought for Korea. Most importantly, we are doing this to make the curricular resources out of this interview so that teachers can use this interview when they talk about Korean War in their classroom. That's why we are doing this. It's my great pleasure and honor to meet you, sir, today, and thank you for coming for the interview, because this is the place where I stay. And so thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
And please say your name, please.
My name is Johny Bineham,
And could you spell it?
yes, it's Johny.
One N.
One N. And Bineham, Bineham.
H-A-M. Yeah. When were you born?
The 1st of November, 1933.
33. So now you are?
I'll be 90 in about 3 weeks' time.
90. You are pretty young. Youngest Korean War veteran that I met in Australia.
Yeah, well I am. I think I'm the youngest.
Why is that you are young still?
Oh, many reasons. Because I'm completely relaxed about it. I do what I can if I can help somebody, but apart from that, if I can't help, I don't worry about it, because I think worry, I just don't worry, because if I think, my theory is, if you can do something positive, then you do it, because you're sending positivity. But if you worry, and you've got a certain situation, you're just sending negativity, and that's going to make the situation worse. It's not going to make the things better. So that's my philosophy in that respect. Other thing is that I was a Chinese herbalist for many years. I still use Chinese herbs.
What is that?
Chinese herbs. I'm a Chinese doctor.
Ah.
So a Chinese herbalist. But when I was in Vietnam in the war...
You are Chinese doctor?
Yeah,
Oriental medicine?
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. And I studied it for 9 years. But when I was in Vietnam, the reason why I became a Chinese medical practitioner, a doctor, doctor of Chinese medicine, was because I went to a wedding and I met Lieutenant Dan, and I met his father and his grandfather. But his grandfather was younger than his father. He had black hair, his skin was beautiful, didn't wear glasses, and I thought, that's impossible. And I said, what does he do? He said, oh, he's a local Chinese doctor. So I thought, well, he knows something we don't know. So when I had a chance to study in Australia, which was many years ago, like 30 years ago, I studied for 9 years, and we did a Chinese university course. So that's how I became, so I was probably the first, not acupuncturist, there's lots of acupuncturists, but I was probably the first, Chinese would say Waigaran, foreigner, Australian, to practice Chinese medicine, open a clinic. And
what do you do? You make Chinese medicine?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where do you practice?
Well, I don't. Well, I just do it for myself now, all my friends. But I had two. I was at a place called DY in Sydney, and then a place called King's Cross.
Wow.
I had a health food shop, and then I had a clinic at the back. So,
excellent.
Yeah.
But you know, you look young, and you're going to be 90-year-old in 3 weeks. Yeah. But how can you be Korean War veteran and still 90? So you must have volunteered to serve in the army very early age, right?
1952, April 1952, I joined up.
So okay. So that means you were 16?
I think I was just around 18.
18?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I was born in 33, and I never really worried about it. Born on 33, so I joined up in 52.
Uh-huh.
So that's, yeah, I think it was in my 18th year.
Yeah.
and I became 19 later. But in Australia, you had to be 19 before you could go overseas. You could be in the army, but you couldn't travel overseas. So and that was to fight in Korea, and I wasn't old enough, so I just put my age up to 22. And at that time, they just wanted people to go to the war. So if you're a little bit young or a little bit older, the army didn't worry. But if you joined the regular army for 6 years, you have to have a birth certificate. So I went in, I just gave my name, age, and that was it. I was in the army the next
Where
year.
were you born?
In North Queensland, a place called Tully,
North?
Queensland. It's the tropics, in the tropical, near Cairns, up near Cairns, between Cairns and Townsville.
North Queenstown where?
Between Cairns and Townsville. It's
What's the name of the
a
place?
place called Tully, Tully.
T-U...
Ully.
Ah.
It's one of the wettest towns in Australia.
We have a Tully restaurant in Syracuse.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell me about your parents and your siblings when you were growing up.
Well, my parents were Australian, but their parents were from England, Ireland, Denmark, and Ireland. So that was my grandparents. But my parents were Australian, and I had a brother and a sister. But we were because
You have a brother and sister?
I have a brother.
Were
and
you
sister.
the eldest? No.
I'm the eldest.
Okay.
Yeah. My brother's dead. He died about 10 years ago. And my sister's still alive. So it was a tropical area, a beautiful area. We had no... it was during the Second World War at that time, but up there's tropical fruit everywhere. It's not like in Korea or China or anywhere like that, where the winters there's nothing.
So it's
So we
warm.
very warm and tropical. We had all the tropical fruit. So we didn't wear shoes, didn't have to wear shoes. We just wore a pair of shorts, and it was a completely. Our life was. We had breakfast, and then we never saw our parents until the evening, and they never asked what you did or what you didn't do because we just played in the rivers and the bush.
So it must have been really cold when you were in Korea.
I couldn't get over it. Yeah. That was really hard for me. Yeah, from the tropics to to below zero. Yes, that was really that was hard. And but the thing is, when I got there to Korea, it was summer, and it was very hot, and the grass. You walk in the grass and it crackle under your feet, and especially the last period of the war. When I was there for the last 6 months, 5 months, and. So and then after that, of course, then it was winter came on after that. But the war had finished then. But it was still cold, and we were intense. But it was better than before during the war.
So tell me about the educational background. What kind of school did you go through, and when did you graduate high school, if you did?
I went to high school, and
what is the name of it?
It was called. Nudgee College, Nudgee, Nudgee College. That's in Brisbane.
So did you call high school as a college?
No, we just call it high school. Oh, college, we call it. Go to. We say college, but it's high school. Yeah. So
and when did you finish your school?
I did. I did 2 years there, and then I left. Because I really disliked school. Yeah, the army was my school. That was my university.
Got it.
But since then, I've done a lot of study since in the latter part of my life. You know, I've done university education, and I've.
Yeah, you was a Oriental medicine doctor, you know. So.
Yeah, well, that's 9 years. That was 9 years of study, and but I've written 8 or 9 books. On YouTube, probably 250. So I'm quite well known. In fact, which amused me, when I was in France, on 3 occasions, I was at a restaurant and people said that they knew me from my YouTube.
Ah.
But it's never happened to me in Australia.
Ah.
Only overseas.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a shock to me.
Yeah.
But I've made a lot of friends overseas, and I've got quite a lot of friends in the community, the Korean community.
So when did you join the army?
The 24th of April 1952.
24th of April.
24th or 25th, I think it was might be 25th, I think, 25th of April 1952.
52. So you already knew that Korean War broke out.
I knew about it, but I didn't know much about world events at that time.
You didn't pay attention to.
No, I was too young.
You didn't pay attention to the war that broke out, but now you are the Korean War veteran.
Yeah, but I went there for adventure. I didn't go there for any patriotic reasons. I didn't go there because Australia or Korea was at war. I just wanted adventure.
Adventure for going to war to be killed?
Well, to kill or be killed. That was, when you're young like that, you look at things differently.
So you were not afraid?
No, I've never been afraid.
Oh.
I've never been a fear. Growing up, I think, because where I came from and my father and all, I've not been a fearful person. In fact, I can say that whenever they said either in Korea or Vietnam, whenever they said there was something, an operation, even before they said it, I'd put my hand up. I just didn't care. I just didn't. Well, I didn't care. I had enough faith in my own ability to look after myself in a given situation.
Yeah. So when you were in, for example, Nachi College or before middle school or any school, did you learn anything about Korea? Did you know anything about Korea?
Yeah, I did. Because, well, geography, the countries.
Wow, they
was my
Korea?
best subject. That was my best subject. Yeah, that they spoke. Yeah, I knew about Korea. I knew it'd been divided, so I knew about that situation. But I hadn't got into the politics. I just knew that Korea was divided after the Second World War. But geography was my favourite subject. I had
so you
good
knew
knowledge
where
of
Korea was?
Oh, yeah. Well, I did, basically. I mean, I knew it was in the north. I knew it was near China. I knew it was near Japan. I knew that the Japanese had been colonial masters in Korea. So I knew that information. But as to what was happening in the war on a daily basis, that I hadn't. I wouldn't be reading newspapers then. You know, I just that was. But of course, once I knew I was going to Korea, I then learned about it. Then I learned what was going on. And also, the people who instructed us were all Korean veterans. They'd been in the war. But we were all volunteers. Yeah. We volunteered. We weren't, the government didn't take us in. We were all volunteers. Yeah. In Vietnam and other wars, that they conscripted people. No, we all joined to go to Korea to fight.
Wow, that's so great, you know.
And that gives you a different psychological makeup.
Right.
To go there, because when the government grabs you and puts you in, already you've got some resentment. But you know, we were a bit like in the First War. Most of the Australians in the First War volunteered. Mm-hmm.
So, where did you go for basic military training?
Down to a place called Wagga Wagga, which is in New South Wales.
What is it?
It's called Wagga Wagga.
Could you spell it?
W-A-G-G-A. W-A-G-G-A is an Aboriginal word.
Can you repeat that, please?
Of course. W-A-G-G-A.
G-G-A.
And W-A-G-G-A. Both the same word. Wagga Wagga.
Wagga Wagga.
I don't know what it means. Something probably means dry and cold. Because it was dry and cold.
And how long was it?
That was 3 months. We basically did a year's training before we went to Korea.
Year?
Yeah, altogether.
So you were called, actually you volunteered to join the army, but you were supposed to go to Korea, but it took a year for you to be trained.
I was over there in April, whatever, in Korea. So
it took a long time.
We were very well trained. And also, the thing is, we were also trained in Japan. We had 3 months training in Japan. Mm-hmm. And that was a really very solid training. We were probably, I think we were probably the best trained troops in the world.
So when did you leave Korea? Australia?
probably about leave Australia. Oh, probably about Christmas time, 1950. Probably around about Christmas time, December 1953, because I went to Japan, did 3 months, and then I was in the Korean War.
So that already Korean War finished?
No, another 4 or 5 months to go. I got there, it finished in July 1953. That was the end of
So,
27th of July 1953.
So you're talking about you left Australia in the Christmas month of 1952?
Oh, that must have been 1952. 1952. That's right, 1952, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1952, yeah.
How did you go to Japan? By ship?
No, by plane.
Plane? So Qantas? Huh.
We had 3 stops. We went to New Guinea, then to Guam, and then to Japan.
And where did you arrive in Japan?
No idea.
No idea.
All I just know it was, I couldn't tell you those dates, never wrote them down. So it would have been probably, probably January, must have been January 1953.
I see.
Because I was 3 months in Japan, or more or less pretty much 3 months in Japan, or near that, and then we went to Korea. So I was in Korea for the last 4 or 5 months of the war.
So what was your unit?
I was, Don Company.
What?
D Company, 3 Battalion.
3 Battalion.
Yeah.
And what was your specialty?
Killing.
Rifleman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all riflemen.
Okay.
Everyone. And in fact, every Australian soldier there, for instance in Vietnam, only 1 in 8 or 1 in 10 saw any action in Vietnam.
What do you mean?
Well, for every soldier, for every 1 soldier, they needed another 8 soldiers to look after them, cooks, trucks, artillery, all these things. But every Australian soldier in Vietnam was a rifleman, infantry.
Wow.
All of them. So there was no Australian soldier who went to Korea who didn't see action.
When did you land in Korea? Where did you land in Korea?
In Busan.
Busan. When was it?
March, something like that, yeah, March, April, yeah.
Yeah. And from Busan, where did you go?
They landed there, then we went up to Takchon by train.
Takchon?
Takchon, yeah. And then from Takchon we went by truck to the front line.
Pokchak?
No, from Takchon, which is on the railway line, that was the end of the railway line, then we went by trucks to the front line. To the fighting, yeah.
Yeah. Where?
Well, at that time we were like just coming off a place called Little Gibraltar, 355.
355?
Yeah.
The hill 355?
Yeah.
So then Ronald was there too?
Yeah. He was at 355, that's right.
Do you know Ronald?
Yeah, I know him, yeah, of course, yeah.
Oh.
I didn't know him over there.
You didn't know at the time?
No, because what happened, I was infantry, but then later, when I got there, when I got to Don Company, I said I want to go with my friend, my best friend, who was there. He'd got there 3 weeks. He got there 3 weeks before me, but in that time he got killed.
Oh.
So when I arrived, he'd been killed 3 days before.
Yeah.
And then in the next 4 days, I'd killed 3 enemy. So in my first 5 days, my best friend had been killed, and I killed 3 of the enemy. So for a young 18-year-old guy, I woke up. You grow up very fast. So that was my first week.
What was it like to know that your best friend, killed, and you had to kill another 3 enemies?
You switch off emotionally, totally. You can't. Otherwise, you can't.
Were you angry?
No. Never been angry.
You were angry because your friend was killed.
No, I wasn't. No, never been angry. Strictly business.
But you have to kill those.
It's business. That's your job. It's not a. It's unemotional. You're not. You can't get emotional. If you get emotional, you lose.
Yep. That's right. So you were in the Hill 355.
No, they would just come off Hill 355. They were all just coming off at the time I arrived there. So we were then in Area 159. And after that, we went to the Hook area, Samachon, the Battle of the Samachon.
How was the battle situation at the time you arrived? Was there no battle, calm, or were there any more battle than before?
No, when I arrived, they just come off Hill 355, and what happened, we had a few weeks holiday. But in that time, so that was, we still had to go, there was like a 10-year DMZ. And anybody in that area, they were spies going back. So we had to go and check that 10 mile. Everybody had to check that to see that there was no spies. So we had a fight then, and there was fighting then in that time, and then so that's when I killed a few people then, and then we went to Area 159, which was then fighting again. But when I say fighting, you're going out on patrol. But every night you're going out on patrol. You don't fight every night. So you can go out for a month and nothing happens, and then suddenly, and when you do fight, it's only over and done in 5 minutes sometimes. But what happened then, at the intelligence section, which is Army intelligence, the guy got killed, and they needed somebody straight away. So they tried different people who could use a camera, could sketch for maps and things like that. And they had a few people, they were no good. But they sent me, and they said, yeah, we'll keep you. So then I was with the intelligence section after that. So my operations then changed. You're working with maps, photographs, but also you had to go and do things like you had to check the front line. So you had to go over the hill with some snipers and first light, and then check where the gaps where you come in and out. All these different things you need to check that they're accurate on the map. And that's where one of my bosses, Lieutenant Colonel Bedard, he was doing that job, and he was shot by his own men accidentally. But the Chinese understood that was an accident, and they allowed a stretcher party to come over and pick him up, and it saved his life.
Huh?
If they shot, they wouldn't have come over. So they stopped shooting, and they allowed a stretcher party to come over. They took him back, and then they got to Japan, but he was shot here by his own men. So that was a bit of a dangerous job. So we did jobs like that, other jobs to try and get people across, South Koreans who were going to go into North Korea. So then we would help them do jobs like that, go back and then help them across and get them to go to, so they could go into North Korea. Or when they came back, meet them and then get them across the river. Some of the Koreans don't swim very well, so we had to put a rope across the river.
That's a very noble thing to do.
Yeah.
To each other, enemies,
Of course.
but they saved the enemies, right?
Yeah. So the jobs were just different instead of just going out, and you had all different jobs like that. But we also had to go into Seoul, but we had to, because we needed maps and things like that. And we used to get them from the Americans. But we used to take butter in there.
Butter?
Butter.
What is it?
Butter. Bread, like
butter.
Because the Americans had margarine, had no butter.
Ah.
So our butter is like gold.
Ah.
So we could take it into the American offices, and they'd give us anything for butter.
So you had to trade.
We could trade with butter.
So what did you get out of it?
Anything.
What?
Oh, trucks. After the war, we got these big Quonset huts. We had all this American food. Instead of eating out of the tins, we got hams, sausages, dill pickles, coffee, all this with butter. Because the Americans got margarine. And also, the Americans don't drink. On American ships in America, they don't drink. But we could have 2 bottles. We could have 2 bottles a day. So if we come out of the line and there's no fighting, we can have 2 bottles of beer a day. The Americans used to get, the officers used to get whiskey. And we used to take the whiskey and sell it to the Americans. Business.
So you did business during the war?
Yeah.
Everybody does.
Every little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
How was Seoul when you went there? It's a 1953.
I can still remember.
Yes, please give us detail because student doesn't have a damn idea how Korea
Okay.
was at the time in 1953.
Well, the first thing was when I arrived in Busan, and I stood on the top of they put us on a truck, an open truck, and I stood up on the back of the truck, and I could look across Busan like that, and you saw virtually no two-story houses. It was all flattened. So all these small houses, people putting things together, refugees. It was a mess. Seoul was different. Seoul was the buildings, a lot of big buildings, but they're all damaged with artillery, shells. Every building had bullet holes in the building. A lot of them all, because Seoul, a lot of fighting there 3 or 4 times, and also the other thing. But I can remember the South Gate in Seoul.
Yeah.
I can remember going through that each time going through, and that's still stuck in my mind. The South Gate was amazing because the other buildings were just buildings, but the South Gate was just this beautiful Asian Korean building, and it just stood out from all the others because the others were just other ordinary buildings, but it was just such a beautiful building. And I learnt since then it burnt down and they rebuilt it, but they changed the position to where we used to go through. They used to go through the main road, and we used to go through the South Gate. And but I can just remember all the buildings being shells, marked with shells. That was so. And kids, a lot of kids running around because lost their parents. Yeah. So in our unit we had a lot of, maybe in our battalion we had maybe 20. We had little Kim. He used to come around and just look after our cups of tea and make a cup of coffee and get sandwiches. And we just had him, and he was just that was it. He's maybe 12 years old.
Are you talking about in Seoul or where?
No, that was in our unit.
You were in Seoul?
I was in Seoul when we went there. That were all the buildings, but there was all these young children in Seoul. I can remember the kids sitting, like you could see lots of children there. So I think there was lots of orphans in Seoul. No parents.
Yep.
Yeah, they couldn't find their parents, got separated, all these different things that happened.
That's right.
But I'm just saying, in our unit, 3 Battalion, we had, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 kids, but only just young kids, 12, 10, 11, 12. We had one in just our little intelligence unit, and he'd just get cups of tea, do this, do that, maybe run, do different things, learn a bit of English, so that was, because it's just a lot of orphans, a lot of children without parents.
Must have been terrible for you to see there are so many children without their parents.
Yeah, that affects you. That affects you.
And did you give money to them for their work?
Oh yeah. Now I can't. Well, I didn't. So I don't. But they were. I don't know. I know when we were leaving, there was one Korean boy. He worked in the RAP. We know we paid for him to become a doctor.
Oh.
Our battalion paid for him, and he eventually came to Australia. I think he died about 8 years ago.
What's his name?
Kim.
Anyway, so they were paid for their work, right?
I don't know, because I never paid them. They were looked after. Yeah, they had food and clothes and things like that.
So you gave food and clothes?
Oh, they were totally. We looked after them. They were like part of the family.
Yeah. So
they lived, but they had their own area. Like all these young kids, they would live together in their tent, but during the day, they would just be part of the unit and do things, and so there was young kids around, but there was other Koreans. We had catcoms, and they were also part of the. In 10 men, often you had 2 Korean soldiers, but often we had language problems. So quite often we couldn't take them on patrol because suddenly things happen and you have to have your language. So we would leave them back looking after defending the position. So that was mainly the job that they had.
How were Korean children?
Sorry?
How were Korean children? Do they behave or?
Oh no, very good. Not, yeah,
Do you,
much better than Australian. Seriously.
how do you know?
Well, I think the worst behaved children I know are the American. The Americans are there, Australian are here, Koreans much more behaved. No, they were good kids. Good kids. No problems at all. Really just...
Do they work hard?
No, they were just jobs. Like we needed to do something, we'd say, Kim, could you go and get this and do that? Or morning tea, he'd just make the morning teas and afternoon tea and organise things like that, whatever he could find. And so the people just working, he'd just bring it round and, you know. But sometimes you needed something to run and get something or take it somewhere and Kim would do it for you. So he did those type of jobs.
So they did good
very
job.
light work, very light work.
Okay.
No, not heavy work.
During your service in Korea, were there any moments where that you could have been killed? Tell me about it, detail.
Well, there was some strange ones. One was I was with my friend Joe, and he was intelligence section, and we were looking at about 5:30 at the enemy on a hill, and we used to go up there occasionally, and they must have known we were coming because this time we were sitting there and like he was this far away, we're just sitting down, and this mortar came over and went literally virtually in between us, but a big mortar, but it didn't go off. So if it went off, there'd be nothing left. I was in a Globemaster that crashed. I was in a vehicle crash that crashed. I was having a haircut once and the artillery came and I got a little bit hit in the foot. I was having a haircut at the time, so that was mortars again. So, yeah, another time I was on the toilet. And well, actually that's a bit funny because it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I went up to go to the toilet. I didn't bring any paper because we used to get so much paper every day in the rations. And I'm thinking how stupid I am, but nobody else left anything. And it's in the hill and there's these shells going over the top. But from us to the enemy. And
From us to the enemy?
Yes. And then one went off. So then I bent over like this. And because then, because sometimes people lose an arm, but they don't know. You go, gone. You know very soon after, but at the time you don't know. Just, and of course what happened, all these pieces of paper started coming down. These pieces of paper like that. And thousands of sheets of paper. And what they were doing, it was the propaganda that they were saying to the enemy, if you have this piece of paper, you come over here, you'll be treated good. You know, so that was, we used to send it to them, they'd send it to us. And there was all this paper everywhere. I went the next day, it was like snow. And that had exploded above my head, but it wasn't, it had been explosive, it would have, nothing left. So, yeah, so times like that, yeah. So, at the times you shot at, but they missed you. So, you know, you don't take too much notice, I don't think, no.
While you were there, what was the most difficult thing in your mind?
The winter.
Winter?
After the war.
Tell me about it.
It was just so cold, and because you had to get up. People had to go up and go around the area. You know, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock. You had 2 hours to do that. And some nights it was really, really cold, and you slept in a sleeping bag. You slept with all your clothes, except the big parka, but everything else you slept in the sleeping bag. You put your boots under your head to keep them warm so they didn't freeze, so you had to keep them in with you so you could put them on and they weren't frozen. But then you had to get out, and then sometimes the winds and the cold were terrible, you know, and then you just had to go around for 2 hours and But I really, very, very cold. But I couldn't blame anybody because I volunteered. No one pushed me to go there. You know, it was my fault. I couldn't, and I couldn't, what could I do? You can't cry because the tears would freeze. It was, so that I can remember the cold, really cold. And I've never, since then I've kept away from the cold.
Where did you sleep then?
We just slept in a tent.
But when you were in the hill 159?
Oh no, we dig a cave into the hill, Uchi.
Uchi.
Yeah, into the.
So
the
you're
ground.
digging the.
Oh yeah.
And then you made a kind of.
A cave, dong, a cave.
Cave.
Chinese called a dong.
Uh-huh.
Dong into the hill. Yeah, two men, two people in there normally, and Korean rats, big rats. They come in as well. Yeah.
So you had to kill them?
No, because we used to, but then what happened? There was a thing called hemorrhagic fever, and it was a bug that lived on the rat. So if you kill the rat, it gets on you. So we couldn't stop. They told us not to kill any more rats.
Oh.
So a few people got it, not many, but a few people got that fever.
Mm.
I never knew anybody who got it, but they told us. So we had to stop killing rats. Yeah.
Any episode you still remember as a Korean War veteran when you served there in the Korean War? Any episode?
Oh yeah, it wasn't the Australians, it was the Americans. I was with a friend and we had some whiskey to sell to the Americans. Mm. We went over to their lines, and we saw the officer, and they were going to attack these hills. Well, not attack, but they were going to go across to these hills. But it's about 9 o'clock in the morning. Now, normally, if you're going to attack, you attack last light or first light. Mm. And then, so you get up as close as you can at night. So when you get that light, you attack. But they were going across at 9 o'clock. And so anyhow, we sold our whiskey, and that was it. And then they were Marines, American Marines. And I remember them starting to go across the paddy fields. And it was summer, it was really dry. And they just started to walk. And then the Chinese, they sent the mortars, not artillery, mortars, and they started coming up. And they started getting killed. They lay down, but they didn't run away. They just stayed there, and so we moved back. So we further back. So our vehicle, our Jeep, was out of the range. But I watched them, and I watched that, and I saw the mortars come down, and I saw Marines get killed. A lot of them, but they're all lying down, so you can't tell whether they're dead or dead. But they never ran back or anything like that, and so that was really interesting. But I couldn't work out why they were doing that at 9 o'clock in the morning. So they must have had very bad information, that and for that to happen, because we'd certainly never do it. And they weren't attacking; they were just going to go across the fields. They were called East and West Berlin, the actual enemy positions. And so that really sticks in my mind. Mm. But the biggest thing that sticks in my mind was when I went back to Korea.
When was it?
In 2000.
2000.
Yeah.
It was a Korea Revisit program?
Yeah, that's
by
right.
the MPBA, Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs?
No, by the Buddhist Military Association. Buddhists.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the Buddhists, there were a couple of generals who became Buddhist monks.
And why was it memorable?
Because when I knew Korea, it was all browns, blacks, greys. That's the colour. I went back, and all the hills, well, just no trees because they were knocked down. We couldn't burn wood. We had to burn petrol in the wintertime because there's no wood. Mm-hmm. And so when I went back, Korea, the hills were all green. Everywhere there was flowers. It was like a big garden, So to go from the Korea in my mind, which is like all black and white, to go to Korea, it's all colour. Mm. That's a big shock, I tell you. Mm. But it was good. That was a pleasant shock. It was really good to see. That was that was a wonderful surprise for me to see the the change, you know. And to go to Seoul, you know, 1 o'clock in the morning, there's a traffic jam. We're pulled up, we're coming back from Busan, and we had to wait, traffic jam at 1 o'clock in the morning, you know. That's amazing, you know. So there was all things like that. That really, but that was a wonderful surprise.
You said that you landed in Busan, and you said that there was no more than 2 stories building.
Hardly.
When you got back to Busan 2000,
When I got back, it was a modern city, and that was it was modern, but it was a total change. It was everything. You're in a modern hotel, and we went to different factories, we went to the judo academies for jiu-jitsu. We went to there. We went to the university at Busan. We went out to the graves, and the graves were looked after, and that was a suburb.
You mean the cemetery?
The cemetery was all built up. When we were there, it was just fields, just hills and a field. Where it was like the outer suburbs of Busan. Now it's all built up. So that was it was just good to see. It's just a really lovely feeling. It made you, you know, that's the thing that made me, you know, feel proud. Now, I can tell you.
So, when you left Korea, did you ever imagine that Korea would become like this today that you saw in 2000?
No,
What do you mean?
No idea. No, I never really. I knew Korea was developing. I knew Korea was a modern country, but I had no idea, to the degree. You know, when I went over there, that was you saw it with your own eyes. It's not just something you read in the newspaper. You know, you actually see it, and you're there. But not only that, the people had changed. You know, you could see in a couple of generations how people change. You know, they went from really a farming community to an industrial community. Like that's a big change. People look different. They you know, before you saw refugees and you saw people, you know, on farms and things like that. And to go back again, it's a modern industrial nation. Yeah, different people altogether, really. Which is, yeah.
Do you know that Korean economy is bigger than Australian?
Of course.
What do you think about that? Can you believe that?
Well, yeah. Well, you know, because in Korea, you have to develop over there for survival. Mm-hmm. Yeah, next year is China. Mm-hmm. The other side is North Korea and Russia, and then so if you're not successful, you know, you can go under. We don't have that pressure here in Australia. We're here, we're there, we're 3,000 miles away from all that. They got a long way to swim to come here.
That's actually a good point, that there is not much kind of challenge, right?
That's right, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So everyone's laid back here, and there's no yeah.
And you have a lot of natural resources?
Yeah, that's right. Well, we I think our trade with Korea, we're about 80 billion or something. It's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. I think you're our third largest trading partner.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty big for Australia.
Korean economy is 10th largest economy in the world. The world, not in the Asia, okay?
But I understand. Not only that just technologically, like with modern chips and things like that for computers and things like that. Mm-hmm. The biggest is Taiwan. The second biggest is Korea, and USA is about number 6.
Yeah.
For making chips. So this, I mean, this is the latest design for chips. So you've got this. Korea was smart enough to put a lot of money also into pure research, which America, Australia, and some of these other countries didn't. You know,
So, what do you think about that? You saw Korea, Seoul, Busan, all completely flooded, very poor, all destroyed. Now, it's, as you said it, it's one of the biggest economy in the world. But Korean War has been known as forgotten war.
well, it wasn't forgotten to the Koreans. I can tell you that.
Exactly, but
That's not true. Now look, that general who said that was Patton. No, that was, I forget which one it was. He just. I mean, what happened was because the Vietnam War was so close after the Korean War, and that just got all the media attention. That was the thing. So a lot of things were taken away. They just the Korean was forgotten in that respect, in the world media, yeah. Look, but I just like to make a point, and this is something that I remind people of, that in the Korean War, that there's 4 to 5 million people died, which is basically 1/10 of the population, over a period of 3 years. The Vietnam War went for 12 years. 1 million people died. But after that 12 years, America, Australia, but America primarily, walked away with Vietnam with nothing. Now, at the bottom part, and of course the South Korean soldiers were in there as well, in Vietnam. But the bottom part, what they call the Delta area, with Saigon, the richest part, that could have been defended, and that could have been another South Korea. But they just left it 100%, or just gone, black or white. That was it. Now that could have been another industrial. You can have the rest, but this area here could be prosperous and so forth, and democratic, etc. Another South Korea, another success story. Again, Afghanistan, 20 years. Same thing. Could have kept Kandahar, Kabul. The industrial, the city area, the urban areas, they could have kept that and said, okay, you can have the rest of Afghanistan, it's yours, but this part we keep.
Yeah.
They left that too.
Yeah.
So, but I can say proudly, South Korea is one of the great success stories, or possibly the greatest success story in Southeast Asia. So something came out of that.
More
Very
than
positive.
Southeast Asia, all in the world.
Of course.
Can you think of any name that came like South Korea?
No.
Can you name?
No one went from there to there like South Korea.
Yeah.
That's right, sure. So
But still, we don't teach about it.
Well, the thing is, look.
What do you mean, look? We don't teach, we don't talk.
You don't have to.
Why?
Well, you see.
Why not?
Well, I'm 90 years old, and people say, "Oh, what do you read to this?" I said, "I don't have to argue. I'm there."
But young children doesn't know much about it.
But you show by example. You show, you know, there's some things you don't have to. Some things you don't have to shout up. Anybody who goes to Korea, anybody who goes there, you're there. You know, when you're there, you don't have to go, "Hey, I'm here." It's there for everyone to see.
But they don't have damn idea how Korea was in 1950. But you know, that's why we are doing this.
Of course. And
because in the school, they don't talk about Korean War not much.
That's a political situation. But believe me, everybody should know their history.
Exactly. That's why we are doing this.
Yeah. Of course, I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, you know, the fact is that you're part of history.
Yep.
And also you need to. I write a lot of poetry, but the poetry I write, it's about the things that happened in history. The things that I don't want people to forget.
Yeah. Yep. So, are you proud to be a Korean War veteran?
Extremely. You know, and I point out, you know, we left Korea, South Korea, as a success story,
Yeah.
we've got something. You've got something to show for it.
Yeah.
In Vietnam, you've got nothing to show for it. In Afghanistan, you've got nothing to show for it. It's worse now than when they started. But you can't say that about South Korea.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You're there. You know, it's like if you're 6 foot tall, you don't have to say I'm 6 foot tall. You can see you're 6 foot tall.
Yep.
Right? But at the same time, I think children should be. But the thing is, it's a happy medium, because I've met some Koreans, and I've mentioned the fact I was in Korea, and like, oh, thank you so much, and they salute, and we thank you for heaven. I've met other Koreans here and said, I don't want to know about it. I've heard enough of it already. So obviously their parents or whatever just pushed it.
Mm.
You know, oh, we survived the war, so you could do this, and they've had this. So you know, there's a
Mixture.
There's a balance to
Yeah.
these things, you know.
Do you have any message to the Korean people about your service, and anything you want to say to the Korean people?
What I would say is that I think that the Korean people need to give themselves a very good pat on the back. Seriously, because you know you've not only made a success story of your own nation, but the thing is that in the world today, it's becoming to a situation where you've got democracies, healthy democracies, and Korea's a healthy democracy. You know, it's had its ups and downs, but it's a healthy democracy. Australia's a healthy democracy. Even the USA were a bit worried, but it's the healthy democracies which have to stand up and show, hey, you know, we've got something to show the other countries that are authoritarian. You know, one person, one family runs it, like in North Korea, like in Russia, like in China, etc. You know, but because of where South Korea is, it's standing up like a lighthouse. It's standing like a lighthouse, and it's there, and it's a beacon, and people can say, well, look, you know, are people trying to get from South Korea and trying to sneak into China or Russia? No, these people want to go into South Korea. Yeah, no one's leaving from Australia and trying to get to China. It's the Chinese who want to come to Australia because we are democratic nations that are successful and politically stable. So I think the Korean people, and I think the young kids, if they're seeing this, they have to realise. And also, the thing is that the security that the younger people in any Australia or Korea, these countries, they've got, it's through the death and dying of a lot of people, and a lot of even civilians and so forth, not necessarily army people, but that's all part of this. This is history, but we need to be aware of it. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's why we are doing this.
Yeah. So that's...
Your witness is beautiful because you saw Korea in 1953 and now you know how Korea is, so that you can put it into a comparative perspective, right?
It's that's one of the highlights of my life, is to go back to Korea and see it, to see it from black and white to colour. That's what it's like, because but even the photographs there were all black and white too. But you know, to see a landscape, cityscape, and to see it, and if there's not trees growing, there's a garden growing. It's like South Korea to me was like a gigantic garden, colour. Yeah, but that's also part of the Korean personality, the colour, the clothing, the colour. That's very much, it's colour to me. And it's a variety of colours. It's not just one colour. You know?
You're amazing.
Yeah.
Johny, because you fought for Korean people, Korea was able to build their nation again and present you. You know, with the 10th largest economy in the world and one of the most substantive democracy in the world. So
no, I'm very proud to be a part of it, quite frankly, part of its history, and just to see the success, it certainly gladdens my heart.
I think you should go back to Korea again to see.
I will, totally. No doubt about
So
it.
I will recommend your name to the Consul General Lee tomorrow that I'm going to meet with him.
Oh yeah, I know him very well. Yeah,
Yeah, so
sure. And
I'll talk about you.
the Vice Consul,
Yeah, I'll talk about you, okay?
They're good friends. I've met
Yes.
them about 4 or 5 times now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Any other story that you want to share with me?
No, not really. I think it's pretty much.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Yeah, look, but I'd say that the only thing is that I'm 90, so pretty much every other Korean veteran is over 90. So we're a dying breed. Not in my case, I'll be around for a long time, but for various reasons. But yeah, so look, and I think the other thing is that really people, health, it's not just physical health, I think it's emotional health as well. And this is really important. And as you get older, because all worldwide now you're getting things like dementia, this, that, and so forth.
Yeah.
So we have to start to really to consider our planet and our lifestyle.
Yeah.
Thankfully, that the Koreans still culturally have stuck with their lifestyle, rather than become Americanized.
Right.
And I think, and Korea needs to stay that way. Like France and Italy, they keep away from McDonald's and the junk food and things like that. Because what's the point of having young people if you're going to grow up and because of your lifestyle, you have a terrible old age. And that's happening in Australia. And in actual fact, supposedly the most developed country in the world, Norway, has got the most dementia, Alzheimer's.
Really?
And the ones that have the least there's a couple of South American hunter-gatherers. In other words, they live off the forest and they hunt animals. They just live off the plants. So they have no dementia and no Alzheimer's. So here's the most advanced country in the world, Norway, with the most dementia. And we've got these hunter-gatherers who just live in the forest in the Amazon, and they have none. So we have to start thinking about, we don't want to get too far away from nature.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that would be my comment as a general comment to anybody, but especially to younger people,
Got it. Johnny, great to meet you.
It's lovely to meet you.
Thank you for sharing your wonderful story.
It's
You
my
made
pleasure.
a lot of good points. And this is why we are doing this,
Yeah, I understand.
to make it as a
sure.
curricular resources for our younger generation.
No, it's an honour to be a part of it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.